Hey everyone, hello and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, Stephen Stark. That's John Webster, you know him.
Hey
Hopefully,
guys.
hopefully we can get Nessie in here soon. She's having a lot of problems with internet, so fingers crossed we can get her in here and get it figured out. But we're ready to get going because here at Here Be Dragons, we never give up and we never surrender. So
Never.
let's do this. Galaxy Quest, y'all. We've been kind of like dancing around doing this one for a little while, and the time has finally come. So yeah, let's take a moment to say hi to everyone in the chat. We'll might give Nessie a chance to get connected. I see Jolie. Hello, hello. Danny McKay, the fabulous Lady Leaf Underhill. Dan from Voice of Geekdom is here. Hi, Dan. No, I saw some other folks. Kate Bertinsky was finishing up the movie right as we were about to get started. Pretty sure I saw Amy Blackfire in the chat. Wheezy Squeezebox. Mwah. We know we love you, Wheezy. Thanks for coming by. Ridiculous Ed Tollett. Sean, I've been thinking about you all week because of this movie, because I know this is one you've been pulling for a long time. Oh, looks like we had Nessie pop in and instantly disappear. Sixto Sounds. Hey, JP. What's up, my man? But yeah, let's talk about Galaxy Quest. John, is this the best parody movie ever made?
What? Sorry, I'm sorry. I was doing the alien who apparently keeps saying what throughout the entire movie. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Actually, and I'm not sure I was entirely gung-ho about seeing it when I was younger. For some reason, I don't know why. And I think it was my friend Tim from childhood who talked me into watching it. And, it's just been a favorite since then. Because it's the parody movie that's sort of not a parody movie, where
Right.
it's taking the piss out of Star Trek and science fiction movies, but it also loves those movies,
Right.
And so you never feel like it's having some jokes at the expense of the audience, but also you never feel like the movie is insulting them.
Right. Like there is so much going on in this movie, and I know that some of the people in our sort of friend group hadn't seen it before this week before the stream, and several of them watched it within the last few days or even just this morning. And I remember Pather saying that he thought it was he was reluctant to watch it because he thought it was going to be too cheesy, but he sent a message to her in our group chat about an hour into his watching. He's like, you know what, this is actually really great. And I'm like, this movie is good the first time you watch it. It's great the second time you watch it. And about the fifth or sixth time you watch it, you realize there is something that's a whole other level going on here, because it's doing so much in that hour and a half.
Yeah, and I think it operates on different levels depending on when you see the film. I think I was enjoying this on a certain level when I was a kid, and then I can appreciate different aspects of it being older now.
Right.
And, there's a whole dimension of Tim Allen's character where you sense that he's wondering about his life and sort of where he's at, and I just don't think that that's something that registers with a young kid
Right.
Watching this. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't enthralled as a kid. I think one of my favorite elements of this movie when I was younger was, and I think also because we all kind of can feel like the underdog or the outsider, the Sam Rockwell character was always really endearing to me. And this is the first time I ever saw him in something. And he instantly was like, this guy is a great character actor.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, this is the first thing that I know for a fact that I saw Sam Rockwell in. And
yeah, and it's so funny because he's done so many things since then and had forays into very serious roles. But when I think of him, I always just think of him going, for all you know, I'm just crewman number 6.
We're doing episode 81. We're doing episode 81. Yeah,
I love him.
I as usually I do. I watched this movie this morning, so it would be fresh in my mind. It's just so much fun. But like, I was surprised at how many thoughts I had watching it this time, especially since we started doing retro reviews. I do. Oh, JP, I missed his comment. There it is. First saw Sam Rockwell in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 1990. I guess I did too, but like,
yeah, that's true. But yeah, that's one of those things where you go back to watch Ninja Turtles and you're like, oh my God, he was there. Because I certainly didn't recognize him from that.
Right. Yes, you're probably right, JP. It was probably his first big role. Like he was not the main star, but he was definitely part of the full ensemble cast. There's Patter. Good evening, sir. I hope you enjoyed the movie. I know you just watched it for the first time today. I hope you liked it. But yeah, so like I think the first time I watched this, I was like, this is a really fun parody of Star Trek. The second time I watched it, I think I said, actually, you know what? This is just a pretty great science fiction movie. And then somewhere along the way, I had the realization it's also a commentary on the rise of nerd culture. It's got fanboy wish fulfillment in it. It pokes fun at that lifestyle while still embracing it and not treating it as worthless or silly. Yeah. And as somebody who spends, like, you probably all have heard me, we talked about Con of Thrones last week, and I said in there, the convention is a huge part of my sort of like social experience, and a lot of my friend circle comes from that world, and I feel like they did a pretty good job representing, you know, what it's like at a convention, what it can be like from both the side of the actor who is annoyed with the fans for asking these weird questions, but also the fans who wait all year and spend a lot of money to have this interaction, you know, for 2 minutes with someone. And then if that person is crappy to them, you know, we're all humans, but like that's a real letdown for that person. And we get to see that happen in this movie. And it's not painted as pathetic, which was nice because this was in 1999, before the rise of the nerd.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's not like, you know, this was made today, we wouldn't think twice about, you know, its sort of representation of, you know, the conventions and nerd culture, as you say. But back in the 90s, I think it was kind of a fresh take and just different to see it treated with respect. And especially since I was not involved in, you know, going to conventions or anything. I think it was nice for me to see as a young kid that side of it.
Yeah, I'm going to address what Amy said. I love the commentary on women not getting enough of a role in sci-fi. My one job is to repeat what the computer says. And it's even made...
It's a stupid job, but I'm going to do it.
Right. But this commentary is made even better by the fact that it's Ellen freaking Ripley saying it.
Yeah.
Who, up to that point, was probably the most recognizable female action hero. Well, no, because by that time we did have Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2, but still, like, she drew a lot of her inspiration from Ellen Ripley in Alien franchise.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of brilliant the way that all panned out.
And I do want to put this up because actually what was great about this was that it was a different experience for me watching it this time, because I just kept thinking, oh, it's just like me and all my buddies in the Slack and
It's
the
just
Zoom
like
chats and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so. I had the same thought, like, ooh, if I had a project and it was coming up, and like, I need to get people who know their stuff. There's people that, like, let's get on a Zoom call and talk this out.
Yeah.
And it is that fanboy wish fulfillment too, because like we want to feel like the time we've spent investing in these franchises that we love, we want to feel like that has some value. And on the surface, you know, this movie is telling us in some ways it does not have the value that you think it does. But I think that it's saying the movie gives it value in a certain way, but I think that those type of things do have actual value outside. And so I'm going to start talking about scene by scene, because there is a scene when one of the aliens dies, Quirrell or something like that. He's dying, and he's in Alan Rickman's character's arm, Dr. Lazarus's arms.
Yeah.
And Dr. Lazarus says this line that he's been dreading saying. He hates it, his catchphrase. But this person is dying, and in all earnestness, he delivers that line to bring comfort to a dying person, which is something that happens in the real world with our sort of metatextual relationships with characters. So
yeah. I mean, that was emotional for me even when I was a kid, just because it's that progression throughout the film of, because it's also showing character growth for him, for Alan Rickman's character, and realizing that, you know, for this alien being, that does have, you know, incredible meaning, and it isn't just, you know, some line that he dreads saying. It has worth to this person who's looked up to him, and of course, then that can be compared to fans who, you know, who have found meaning in their own lives through that. Yes, it might be fictional, but it may have provided them comfort in their lives at a moment when they needed it.
We've all heard stories of people saying, you know, XYZ thing was what got me through chemo, or got me through my parents dying, or, you know, all these different things. And, you know, we have on this channel a couple times had conversations about what it means to be a member of a fandom, and how that influences our lives. But I thought that was a really beautiful encapsulation inside the movie of how those relationships play out, those sort of meta relationships that we have with fictional characters. You know, they can provide us with strength and comfort in the times when we need it most.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've had several experiences with that. You know, obviously Lord of the Rings played a very important part of my life. I don't know necessarily that it's...
Are you a Lord of the Rings fan? You a big fan?
I don't know that I necessarily, you know, there's a lot of people who tell stories about how Lord of the Rings saved their lives at, you know, at sort of critical junctures. I don't know that it was that for me, because I don't know that I was necessarily going through a rough time or anything, but it meant a lot. It was a significant event for me, but I've certainly had other things like that. I know I was going through a very significantly difficult time. I want to say it was probably about 7 or 8 years back, and I chose at that point to start watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and just being invested in that story and those characters and what they were going through. It really helped pull me out of I don't want to say a dark place, but a place where I needed some help, and so I think we all have that story.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have, the people who show up to watch us are, they're aware of what we're talking about. Maybe they hadn't made the full connection to this movie, but still, like, it is an important aspect of why people seek out genre storytelling, which at its heart, this movie is an examination of science fiction storytelling. Now, is it taking shots at it here and there? Yes, it is, because some of the tropes of science fiction are a little bit ridiculous sometimes, and so you are forced to stretch your imagination in certain ways. And this movie kind of sometimes, it pokes a little fun at that type of thing when it happens, but
it's what's great about it is because I think as fans we recognize those spots where we do kind of have to roll our eyes. So it's not real. It's not laughing like at the audience for those ridiculous elements. It's laughing with the audience.
right.
It's like we know that's ridiculous, and it should be kind of chuckled at.
Yeah, but like it doesn't reject it entirely, though. Like, it has its fun with itself, down to even like the alien race is called Thermians, right? Which is clearly a play on a theremin, which is that instrument that is used to create the original Star Trek theme song. That's a theremin, and it's like a weird magnetic field manipulation thing. And the weird, not quite right human looking when they have their disguises on.
I'm sorry, I'm just now thinking of the scene where they are all transported there, and and the visual whatever isn't working yet, and then when they finally do transform into human looking beings, then Guy just lets out
that scream.
And it's just
that scream is so good.
And then when Tony Shalhoub shows up, it's like, that was a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
What's wrong with these guys?
And then, okay, I haven't mentioned him yet. All the characters in this are great. Some have a little bit more to do than others, and some of them get a little bit more of an arc than others. Like the young guy who's a pilot, he doesn't get as much to do. Yeah. His character doesn't have as much to do, but like freaking Tony Shalhoub's character, Tech Sergeant Wang or
Chang. Yeah, that's the other thing, that it's totally taking like not just sci-fi but old television shows to task.
Right. Tony Shalhoub as Fred Kwan, who played Tech Sergeant Chen.
Yeah.
I loved that character so much. Like, he ate a brownie right before the movie started, and it didn't wear off till very nearly the end. Like, that guy was high the whole time. But like, I even think, and while it's funny and it makes for some great comedy moments, like if you, on multiple viewings, again, this is one of those layers when you peel it back, you're like, he is a man coping with the fact that his career never went anywhere. So he has become like a burnout with no real hopes or dreams for the future. But he finds he refines purpose for himself throughout the course of the movie.
Yeah.
Now, is it the smoothest transition for him? No. I mean, it's motivated because he sees a hot lady, but it still is like, it is deeper than it might appear on the surface. He's not just a wasted stoner for nothing. He's a wasted stoner because his TV show ended 18 years ago, and nothing has happened for him since. Each of those characters is facing the same thing and dealing with it in their own way. You know, the I'm just going to call them by their actors' names in general because I know them way better, and they have character names and their actor character names. Anyway, yeah. But like Tim Allen, you know, he deals with it by becoming the big fish in the little pond, so to speak. Whereas Alan Rickman is, like his whole breakdown at the beginning. I played Richard III. You know, he is still an artiste in his heart.
Yeah, it's then I won't go. Yeah, I won't do it. Nothing you say will make me. The show must go on. Damn you. Love it.
Yeah, but like, I find it interesting that they kind of set up all these characters in the same space with the same backstory in a lot of ways, and show the different ways they've all dealt with their sort of their diminished capacity after their 15 minutes of fame kind of dried up. And it's fun to watch all of them move through the movie and find new purpose through that. Like even Crewman Guy, like he was in the first segment of episode 81 where he was killed by a lava monster. And we've all, for those of us who have been to cons, we've seen people who have done one little thing and it could kind of get to their head. But like, again, for him, it's still like they're all searching for a purpose. And one thing Star Trek, I feel like, always did well was try to give purpose to humanity, try to give the show a feeling of purpose. So I think it's actually a great way to do a Star Trek parody, to have all of the characters trying to find purpose again after they had lost it.
Yeah.
So I started this off with a question. Is this the greatest parody movie ever made?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Like we did the Spaceballs retro review recently, and this is an entirely different creature. Like Spaceballs is a fun movie. I really think this is a genuinely like master-crafted piece of cinema. And you're the film buff, John, so like I'm going to even defer to you on this, but I just think there are so many layers to the story, to the plot.
What were you saying a second ago about people's head getting too big? No, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they are different kinds of, the parodies, but I don't know. And I think I'm probably a much bigger Spaceballs fan than you might be at this stage.
Right.
But yeah,
Spaceballs is not trying to be a legitimate.
And I don't necessarily know that Galaxy Quest is either. I mean, it's trying to be a heartfelt, entertaining, movie that I think, people can sit down and watch and be whisked away. But it's not like it's got, sort of more pompous aspirations to be more than that. So I don't know. I think it's one of the, like I said, it's one of my favorite movies of its time. But then I don't know that there is other movies that are strictly of this kind where it's fully embracing the culture. That
right. Like to me, Spaceballs feels like a bunch of dreamed up situations to make jokes. To me, Galaxy Quest seems like a story about actors who have passed into obscurity, the fan groups that still love them, and it's a science fiction adventure that's actually like a real science fiction adventure, and then they lay the jokes on top of that. Like, they don't write scenes for the jokes, they write jokes for the scenes, and I always prefer that personally. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just while you were saying that, I was also thinking of movies that are in a similar vein. It's not the same type of movie at all, but it very much has that, shares a kinship in terms of its sort of tone with Serenity, just in terms of being a science fiction story with something to say, but also sort of winking at the audience at the same time. But yeah, no, I think you're right about the comparison with Spaceballs, just in terms of that is a movie that's not really, it doesn't have much to say. It's just it's having fun with the genre.
Right. And which is not the wrong, bad, or anything like that, but my preference is for, I feel like Galaxy Quest has more substance at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Well, gosh, I wish Nessie was here, man. I miss that girl. She was here every week, and then she went back to work, and now she's having internet trouble. I miss you, Nessie.
I know, and y'all, we got teased because after several attempts, it looked like she had crystal clear video, perfect sound, and then 30 seconds later, it cut out again. So, yeah, so we almost had our sis with us here, but she's here in spirit, though.
Yeah, and Nessie, we can't wait to have you back. Miss you. Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, we were in space. And maybe one of the more understated elements about this is the character of Brandon and his friend group, because y'all, that's us. You know that, right? That's us. And it would have been so easy for them to portray these guys as just like nerds with no, like the classic nerd from the 80s, the pushing the glasses up the nose. But like, even in their early interactions with the famous people, the actors from Galaxy Quest, they had an earnest love for the source material, but like, they had it when they didn't have the good interaction with the captain twice in one day. You could tell that was crushing to them. Like, and it's because of these strong bonds we build with fictional characters. They become very, very real to us. Like, we know them, even though the people that portray them have no idea who we are. Oh, there's Nessie. Alan Rickman is one of my favorite character actors. He's incredible at anything he does. You are not wrong, and he kills it in this movie. Yeah,
God, I really miss him so much. He was always one of my favorite actors, and this movie was, I'm thinking about like how many like iconic characters he was for me, not just in my youth, but as I continued to grow older. When I was young, he was the sheriff of Nottingham, and in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Then he was, in this, and then he went on to be Professor Snape. This is a guy who just, he was phenomenal, and he knocked everything out of the park. And yeah, it was gutting for me when we lost him. But his performances live on, and this is really a great one.
Yeah, there's actually Jolie says she's loved him in Blow Dry. I'm not familiar with that one. Padar says Dogma, he was brilliant in, and you're not wrong. Like, I love Dogma. It's a fantastic movie. And as you say, Snape, and of course, Die Hard as Hans
Yeah.
Gruber. Like, and the thing is, like, I believe he was a pretty serious English thespian before that, and I think Die Hard was his first movie, and gosh, he's just so good in it. Like, he can just deliver those sinister lines so well. I don't know, but in this one, I don't know it's my favorite Alan Rickman role, but god dang, when you want to cast like a genuine thespian, and he's going to have an arc in the film, can you do better than Alan Rickman? I mean, can you? Because he just exudes that aura anyway.
Yeah, well, it's in that way it is kind of fun because he can do stuff that you'd more expect of like a classically trained English actor. Like I mean, I think one of my favorite performances of his, and this is me on brand, is Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility, which he's fantastic in. But then he'll turn around and do genre stuff, and so it's really funny to see him in the role of a character who's talking about all these playing Richard III and all these sort of classic roles and then be playing an alien.
But there is something beautiful to be said, and I've heard multiple actors say this, that there is a process when you have a character that really pops off and people come to know it and come to associate you with it. It can be a haunting experience for an actor, even because, ooh, say the line, and when it's every day, you're just like, the line is, shut up and leave me alone. But a lot of them will eventually come to a place where they realize they have created something that has impacted the world positively in ways that they could never do in a different medium. Like Mark Hamill, never met the guy. He has no idea I even exist, but I love that man to death. And his work as Luke Skywalker helped shape me into the man I am today. So, like, but he is one of those that realizes that the work he did that was put on screen has a positive effect on humanity for the rest of time. And it was really neat to see Alan Rickman's character follow that evolution, of coming to terms with the fact that, oh no, yes, I'm annoyed, but the amount of good I've done in the world through this means that this thing I've created, while it might annoy me sometimes, really is much more valuable to humanity as a whole than I might have realized.
Yeah, you say you haven't gotten to meet him. Have you ever gotten to see him like on stage doing anything?
No.
It's a transformative experience because he understands what he means to the fans, and he embraces that, and you really feel like he's just giving you his all, when you're in that audience. It's unlike anything else, and I hesitate to speak for Star Wars fans because I think that's a hazardous thing to do these days.
It is, but you can speak for yourself.
Yeah, but I think that just means so much to them, especially for him, because I think if there's one thing most Star Wars fans can agree on, it's that we all love Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I don't think that's a stretch.
Yeah.
That's a really good question, Julie Beth. I wonder how many Trek actors had to go through that kind of transformation with their attitudes towards the fan adoration of their characters.
I mean, I'm certain that William Shatner went through that.
Indication, William Shatner has made peace with it, but does not embrace it. I'm pretty sure, and this is my impression. Do not consider me a primary source on anything that I'm about to say. This is my impressions and based on things I've heard. I did meet Walter Koenig at a convention here in Dallas sometime in the 90s. He did not seem very happy to be there. I'm just going to say. It's unfortunate. Maybe he was just having a bad day, but I did not relish the experience of meeting him.
I know that I've seen videos of just talking about Shatner again. Yeah, and maybe he doesn't fully embrace it, but I know that, and I know eventually he and Nimoy did have a sort of falling out. But I have seen videos of them at conventions together where they just seem to be giving themselves over to the experience of basically giving the fans exactly what they want, of them just reminiscing and joking around and having a great time. So I do think at a certain point, in my opinion, I think he has embraced it to a certain degree, certainly more than I think he did back in the day.
Well, and I would hope so, just because he did create an iconic character that continues to inform the entire Star Trek franchise going forward. And if you can't see Captain Kirk in Commander Taggart, exactly. You're not looking hard enough.
It's there's really, I mean, I can think of very few actors who can sort of embody the Shatner quality in a character like this, and Tim Allen is kind of an obvious choice. He does.
I was thinking about this, looking at the cast and everything, and I'm like, I think Tim Allen is probably the least talented actor in general of the entire cast. But he fits that role so well that he's still riveting to watch, because he can play that sort of dumpy, self-interested, just the way that his character is in the beginning of the movie. But he is also a believable sort of commander, leading man type, which is where we leave him at the end of the movie. I don't feel like he could have played any of the other characters in the film. You wouldn't cast him as Dr. Lazarus or as Tech Sergeant Chen, But I think he is basically perfect for the role of the commander. Yeah. And I'm not saying he's a bad actor, but when you're standing next to Sigourney Weaver and Alan Rockwell,
and he does fill a certain type. He's the type of actor who would be chosen for that role,
right?
In a TV series,
right? And he's great in this film. Like I say, I'm not trying to slam him. What I'm saying is that I consider him to be the least actor-y actor of the bunch, and he's killing it.
Yeah, it is sort of outrageous, the talent on display.
It really is.
This film. And even what was hilarious is that I'm picking out all these actors who played the Thermians.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few. I was looking at the cast list.
I know. Let me see if I can pull up the cast who. Oh God, who was there was. Oh, I was so shocked because just all of a sudden, Rainn Wilson from The Office, they're playing one of the aliens. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, and Missy Pyle is
Yeah,
in there, who's done a million movies and TV
she
shows.
was just great in this with what she just does with her eyes and her smile.
Well, and her
Yeah,
her translator's broken, and and this movie just it does things that other movies I just feel like almost even couldn't get away with. They're pulling out of the space dock and the sound of like 30 seconds of metal grinding on metal, and I'm just like, oh, this is awful, and I love it. Yes, just so good, so good. And you're like, how long is this going to keep going on? And you see everybody like, trying to pull away from the wall. It's just, oh man, so relatable. And it's that kind of joke. Like of course, there is a scene where they're going to pull the ship out, and of course, everybody wants to be here for this historic moment of watching this super famous guy take the ship out for the first time. So they're all there to watch him in this moment where he's grinding metal on metal. I don't know why that just made me laugh so hard this time, but it really did. Like the longer the metal was grinding, the more I was tearing up. Whatever.
It's the whole awkwardness of the moment, just where you've got, guy standing there and he's just like, so you got to move a little, and he's like, man, would you just let me handle this?
Right?
It's like it's just getting worse and worse and worse. I love it. But yeah, it's there. I can't really segue into this, but it just I just remembered that, speaking of sort of space moments, there's something which nobody will really realize watching the home theater version, but I know when the film was in theaters, and unfortunately I didn't get to see it that way, but that moment where we get past the section where Tim Allen doesn't realize what he's involved in and just decides to blast Saris's ship, and then gets ready to leave, and so they go ahead and send him home, and he's like, hey, where's my limo? And then the doors open up. Well, when the film was in theaters, the first like 30 minutes of the film are in
In like an old
like a
box.
Yeah, like I don't know how many people know about like aspect ratios, but it's in a 1.85 to 1, which is not as wide. It's it's more square. And so, and when those doors open and you see outer space for really the first time, the aspect ratio opened up really wide, and that's how the movie was for the rest of the film. So they did that in theaters. I think that when it came to home video, they weren't really sure the impact of that would resonate, so they just made the whole film the wider ratio. But just from a sort of cinematic point of view, I think that's really cool, and I'd love to see that kind of thing utilized more often in films, especially something like this, because you wouldn't expect a movie like this to take advantage of sort of different aspect ratios to kind of make a moment land. And
right. Well, I knew I could count on you to bring cinematography into this sooner or later. And I also got to say, like, now I've seen this movie a lot of times, but to me, the theme music of this film has become just as iconic as Star Trek or Star Wars. Okay, Star Trek scored. Nothing is ever going to touch Star Wars for me. Sorry, John Williams. He's just the master.
Yeah, well, and the music was composed by David Arnold, who, it's funny because I mentioned Serenity earlier. He's the guy who composed the soundtrack for Serenity. And David Arnold is responsible for
David Newman.
Is it David Newman? Yeah,
it is.
I'm getting my Davids mixed up. David Newman. He did do the music for Serenity though, so I just mixed that up.
Just got the wrong name there. It's cool.
Yeah, and actually, let me go ahead and pull him up so I can list off some of the other stuff he did.
Yeah, I'm looking at him now.
Not a great movie, but he did do the soundtrack to the 90s comic book adaptation. I don't know if it was a comic book adaptation, but it's a superhero movie called The Phantom, which, again, not a great movie, but the music is quite fantastic.
Right. You were right. Not a great movie. I don't remember the music, to be honest.
It's been used in a lot of trailers. I remember specifically when they were advertising The Mask of Zorro coming out. They made great use of that music in those previews. God, I cannot find the link. Here we go. Yeah, unfortunately, I was getting him a little bit confused with David Arnold, so some of the movies I was about to list off would have been incorrect.
I'm glad you didn't get there.
Yeah, but he is a very good composer, and you're right. I think that the theme for this movie is quite iconic, and it's hard not to think of it next to, even the Star Trek themes.
Yeah, I think it's still just iconic. It's got the great sort of adventurous feel to it. I just think it fits all together well.
Yeah, and it of course doesn't hurt that we get to see not just one but two opening credit sequences to accompany that theme at the beginning and end of the film. So, and just that helps establish it as like a classic theme from an old science fiction TV show.
I agree, JP. The effects are still good too. Like, you can tell they're dated, but like they're pretty good.
Well, I think they work a lot also just because
it's a space adventure. We don't know what it's supposed to look like anyway.
That, and also because the film doesn't rely on them to tell the story or to have fun with the movie. It's sort of a mistake that a lot of newer science fiction and just movies in general make, where you're relying on the spectacle of all these beautiful visual effect shots instead of character moments.
Right.
And this movie knows what it's doing. It also helps that it was made in the 90s, so visual effects weren't really far enough along yet to be the dominant part of the spectacle.
Right. Yeah, they supplement the story and the characters. And yes, I totally agree. This movie has a great plot, but it is a very character-driven story, which is, I think most of y'all know, that's going to get me most times. If you look at most of the shows I love, yes, they have great story, but like at their heart, it's because the characters are just so well written and interesting. Yeah,
I mean, just look at the big, climactic moment of defeating the villain. It's practically a throwaway moment as far as like, the villain goes. He gets shot with a laser and then blows up, but the moment is about the characters and that sort of climactic moment of descending on the convention and being all together and supporting one another. And so that kind of shows where this film's priorities are, where it's not about, big, long, drawn-out battles with the villain. It's about the relationships.
Yep. And it's going to get me every time. Interesting humans doing interesting human things. Or, there's some interesting non-humans in this as well.
Hey, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron. Love you. Fly safe.
Love you.
I assume you're heading back? You're heading home now? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think she is.
Yeah, I think she's heading back home. But safe travels either way. Well, we're about an hour in. I'll just go ahead and do the mid-roll now, and then we'll come back to it, all right?
Okay.
So, hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate y'all who are here in the chat. If you're watching later, I appreciate you too. John, I appreciate you being here. Nessie, I'm really sorry you're not here. Love you, sis. Come back as soon as you can. I'm going to thank our patrons. We're going to start with John Bronsteen the Wise. Thanks, buddy. Love you, man. We're going to go with Sixto Sounds, JP, who's in the chat today. Love you, buddy. And then, of course, ridiculous Ed Tollett. Been here since the beginning. Love you, buddy. And yeah, so I guess I was talking about this the other day. Maybe I guess it was last night in a Zoom call with some of the friends and supporters here. I want everyone to realize that the Patreon is, yes, we have a Patreon. Yes, if you want to contribute so that it helps cover the cost of our streaming software. And, it seems like we might need to get Nessie better or something for her internet. Like, there is no exclusive content. We only want the patrons who are motivated to contribute to the community and have the financial means to easily do so. So there's no pressure to any of you, but yeah, we have a Patreon, and if you want, there's a link down in the description. There's also links to our Twitter down there. John's got a link to his channel, John Webster Film. You got a movie coming up, buddy?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do want to apologize to anybody who either didn't see my message on Twitter or isn't in our Slack group. There was supposed to be an episode this past Thursday. Unfortunately, I've just been swamped with work and just some other stuff going on, so I neither had time to prep, and nor was I just in good shape to do it. I was actually quite exhausted, so it's actually happening this coming Thursday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern. That'll be my stream with Aaron M., who just popped in the chat, and we will be talking A Knight's Tale. So sorry it didn't happen this past week, but it will go on next week. So please stop on by at my channel, and we'll have a good time.
And again, link to John's channel down in the description. I believe Nessie's got something coming up this week too on Wednesday. She's got a live stream, I think. Come on, brain. John, do you remember what it is? Because you're supposed to be making a title card for it. So,
well, then of course I do, but just let me sit on it for a second.
Yeah, let you. It's all for it's for dramatic pause, y'all.
Yes, exactly.
But Nessie, who unfortunately is having internet troubles and cannot be here today, she's got her own channel, The Unspun Yarn. Link to her channel is down in the description as well. Yes, she is streaming this Wednesday. No, neither one of us remember what it is off the top of our head. People are telling me it's Sphinxes with Alicia Houston.
That's it.
Which I know that was what she was going to do. I just wasn't sure. Because it was supposed to have happened already and it had to get rescheduled. But yeah, Sphinx.
Yeah, we just wanted that dramatic effect. We are not at all bad brothers.
No, we're the best, man. Don't tell her we couldn't remember on the spot. Don't tell her. What else? Oh, yeah. How about you like and subscribe if you haven't liked and subscribed? I think everybody I see in the chat right now, I know you guys are subscribers already, but if you are coming, if you're here and you're not subbed, hey, I'd really appreciate it if you did. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just shamelessly say, hop over to my channel and subscribe to my channel, because I'm at 81 subscribers. I get to 100, I can actually do a custom link, so the link will actually say John Webster Film. So please do that.
Yes, please do that too. Yeah, so cool. Next week we're going back to Star Wars, so we'll be covering Star Wars: The Clone Wars Season 2. So I've got this week to catch up on that. I forgot about it. Life is what it is. I was feeling not great most of this week too. So, but yeah, next week Star Wars: The Clone Wars Season 2. And then after that, back to The Expanse, we're going to be doing a character study of Christian Avasarala.
And then I believe Nessie is actually going to be doing
a follow-up
stream and about her. So that'll be, at least I remember that one.
Yeah. So we're supposed to have Monaro Geek TV as a guest for that one. And I believe Nessie is going to have Courtney and I don't want to lie. She's got a couple of guests for her stream as well, and not the same guests. So tune in for that one as well, because wow, Officer All is a great character, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, I don't even know if I told John and Nessie about this, but I have a little bit of exciting news. If you go to sanrixian.com and enter code HBD on checkout, you will get 10% off your purchase now and forever. So, yes, we have a discount code for Sanrixian swag, which I think is awesome. You guys know how much I love her, what a great friend to the channel she is. So get yourself some t-shirts and some stickers, and she's always adding new stuff. So anyway, go get you some Sanrixian swag.
Yeah.
Julie Beth, love you.
Yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity since it comes up just to say that Sanri is an absolutely fantastic person. So you should absolutely support her. And, I've just been overwhelmed by the new friends this is just me getting, emotional and stuff. But y'all are wonderful people. And, and Sanri has welcomed me with open arms, as have a bunch of you. So, yeah, support everybody.
Yeah, well, again, that's what we do here. We try to be supportive of each other, and I'm just really happy that we have a discount code. So if you need some cool T-shirts, some cool A Song of Ice and Fire stickers, and I'm pretty sure she'll have new stuff coming soon. I don't know what, I don't know when, but she will. She's always adding new stuff. So go check out her store. The link is in the scroll. There's a little scrolling banner right now. I have forgotten to put it in the show notes in the description box, but it will be in there shortly after we finish streaming. So yeah, cool. Anything else you got coming up, John?
No, I guess I should probably say, in addition to the delay from my stream from this week, my schedule is going to be a little wonky for the next month because they're doing some weird things at my work schedule wise. So just hang in there. I'll be back to a somewhat normal schedule once we get through the month. But I've got one coming up this week, and we'll just see from there.
I don't know of any that she had. JP, I'm answering JP's question. I don't know if there are any T-shirts with an 80s aesthetic. She's got an art style very her own, but yeah, go check out sanrixian.com. And she's got a Night's Watch T-shirt that's awesome. Her The North Remembers T-shirt is a classic. She's got a Stannis one. She's got a Queen of Love and Beauty with Lyanna and Blue Roses. It's good stuff. And you can decide if it's got an 80s aesthetic or not. Probably not, but I love her work. Anyway, shall we get back to Galaxy Quest?
Yep.
Okay. So, it's a good movie.
It is.
Yeah. It's not a perfect movie. And I'm not blind to its flaws. But like I recognize that any flaws that it does have are mostly a product of its time, not a product of bad writing or anything like that. And I'm willing to forgive basically any transgression this movie might have made because of really almost how ambitious it was in all the themes and ideas it's trying to marry into one cohesive whole.
Yeah, and of course, we already know from our Batman stream that I tend to turn a blind eye to to stuff that maybe doesn't work in a modern context, but was a product of the time. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure you're right, but it's like there's not a moment of this film where I'm not grinning ear to ear. So it's easy for me to overlook any imperfections.
It's pretty easy for me too, if I'm being honest. And Amy, you say it perfectly. There are no perfect movies, but there are great movies, and this movie is so great.
And see, that's great to hear because she just saw it for the first time.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to hear you say that because actually, Amy, I thought you might pick this movie apart a little bit because of the way it treats its very few female characters.
Yeah, but it's also making great commentary.
It is making. You're right, which is why I feel like I wish that Sigourney Weaver's character had a little more to do, but I think that part of the reason she doesn't is because of that commentary about how women are portrayed in science fiction a lot of times. So I'm like, I wish she had more to do, but I understand that it's part of the commentary.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, something that did strike me. I guess we'll go ahead and talk about some things that maybe aren't so perfect about it. Is the fact that
we do.
Yeah, which apparently by the end of the movie, Tim Allen gets the girl, and it's Sigourney. Now, is that a product of it being a 90s film and they want the, romantic moment at the end of the movie, or is that yet another piece of commentary where it's like even this movie is giving into that sort of cliche
right
moment? So it's hard to tell because it's kind of just so much about this movie is taking a look at those tropes. So is this another example of taking, a shot at that trope, or is it actually,
And as with so many things in this movie, it almost feels like it could be both at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you want, and we're going to give you the ending that you earnestly want, and we're going to try to make it the best as possible. But, like, there might be a meta-narrative going on about why is this the ending you want,
Yeah.
Yeah. Julie Beth, you are not wrong. We're being so ironic, but not. Yeah. As a fellow Gen Xer, I feel that with all of my soul. But like, I think the better romantic subplot in the movie is between Tech Sergeant Chen and Leilani. I think that's the character's name. I'm going to double check Wikipedia. Laliari.
That's interesting that you say that. Why would you say that? Because there's not really much development there.
There's not much development in either one of them.
Yeah.
But at least with Tony, at least with the other pairing, like it's an interspecies thing, and it's more. I don't know, because he hooks up with a Cthulhu monster from outer space. Like, what's not to love about that romantic, interlude? I thought that was great. No, I'm not going to defend either romantic subplot in this movie. I'm just not going to. That's probably the one place where where I felt this movie really kind of like, okay, you're just putting it in because you feel like you have to, because it's a Hollywood thing, and there's never a movie without a romantic subplot ever.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you were saying earlier about the sort of character arcs throughout the film, and I was going to point out that unfortunately Sigourney Weaver does not really have much of a character arc at all, um, which is unfortunate. She's great in the movie.
She is.
I think she's so much fun to watch. Just like when they're going through the choppers at the end, she's like, "Whoever wrote this episode should die."
Yeah. Like, and
So
if you watch, like, you hear her say, "Oh, screw this," but if you were watching her mouth,
yeah,
you can very clearly tell that is post editing. You know, they did ADR afterwards, and
that is not what she said.
that is not what she said. That is not what she said in that take. But
Yeah, so I think she's, as far as like lines, she gets great lines. Sigourney is fantastic in the part. I just in a film that feels like, you know, a lot of the male characters get to go on some kind of journey and change by the end. I didn't get that from her character, which I think kind of sucks a little bit. But that's like, again, I love this movie so much, so it's
might it be that she has the least arc because she's the most well adjusted at the beginning anyway?
that's true.
Like, she might have the least need for an arc because she is the most together person of all of them. Now that I think about it, she almost is like, she's the one calming down Alan Rickman's character at the beginning when he's having his freak out. She's the one trying to, like, make sure that Tim Allen's character is where he needs to be on time.
She really is kind of the grown-up.
Yeah, so maybe she doesn't have as much of an arc because she's, like, already pretty well adjusted.
And I will say, I just sort of caught myself there. You don't always. I'm trying to write a line between not saying like in a movie where a lot of characters get arcs, it'd be nice for her also to get one, but you don't actually need an arc for every character. Some characters, their story doesn't require an arc, and because she is the most well-adjusted, because she's, as I said, sort of the adult in the room, maybe that's not required for her character, or maybe it was. I don't know, but this takes me back to conversations that I used to have about. I find a way to make everything about Lord of the Rings, but conversations that I had with fans, with fellow fans, when those films were coming out, about how the screenwriters gave a lot of character, like transformative character arcs to characters who didn't necessarily have those in the book. Like in Two Towers, you have Faramir, who, you know, they made into gave him a darker story and gave him this journey to go on with his, you know, relationship with his father and all this stuff. In the book, the character is kind of fully formed, and he doesn't really go on a journey so much. He's there and he fulfills certain functions, but they changed his character so that he has more of an arc. And there was some dispute in the fandom as to whether that was necessary. So sometimes I think there's room for characters who don't necessarily need to go on some kind of journey, you know, depending on how, in what place they're at and what their place is in the story, you know?
Oh my gosh. Just want to say hi to Cedric Shaw. I haven't seen you in a minute, buddy. Somebody I know kind of IRL. It's nice to see you, man. It's been a minute. And welcome to the conversation. But yeah, I agree with you in general. Spoilers for Avatar: The Last Airbender. But my favorite character, Toph, does not really go on much of a journey throughout the majority of her time on the show. She doesn't really have an arc, but she starts off as a very self-assured, capable person. So she doesn't need a lot of development. You know what I mean? But she is a solid addition to the ensemble when she comes aboard. Maybe largely because she doesn't need an arc, because she's so self-assured and so actualized from the moment she shows up. She gets to help other characters through their arcs, but she doesn't really have much of one herself. Hey, Fattest Leech, nice to see you. Glad you could make it. It's been a minute since I've seen you too. All right. We got some folks showing up.
But that said, I would still say I have a criticism just about the fact that, apparently her character needs to resolve by kissing the male lead.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I still have an issue with that, but still, I mean, I would still say that she is just absolutely phenomenal in the role and does get some of the best lines.
Sorry, you caught me mid-typing a message to someone. I'm just excited to see people. I'm excited.
I'm used to you not paying attention to me. That's fine. Whatever.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? Yeah, for those of you that don't know, yes, John and I, the honeymoon is over now. Like it's officially over. We're an old married couple now.
Okay, so what area of the movie do you want to talk about next? Because we are kind of jumping all over the place.
We've just jumped all around, and like we've spent some good time on Sigourney Weaver and Alan Rickman both. But there's a lot of characters in here who deserve mention. Enrico, I can never say his last name. Is it Calantoni as Mathazar? Like, he's one who I just don't even know that I've seen him do anything comedic other than this film.
I have. I don't remember what the sitcom was. He was on some kind of sitcom when I was younger.
I know he was on Ally McBeal, but that's like
it wasn't that. I don't know, but I know what you mean. I've seen him in also stuff where
he was the dad on Veronica Mars. But like, he is so funny here. He's brilliant, and yet even in his more like emotional scenes, he still carries that weight, which is hard to do for an actor, for a human pretending to be an alien, pretending to be a human.
Yeah. What you say about sort of the heartbreak, that scene where Tim Allen has to, tell him the truth, which of course by the end he thinks was just a put on, which maybe he even needs to convince himself of that to go on, but sort of the just betrayal on his face, it's really great. But it's a really great quality to be able to be that comic relief throughout a film and to still sell those real moments of gravitas and emotion. I'm going to talk about this when I do my Knight's Tale stream with Aaron, but it's sort of in that same way that Alan Tudyk, throughout A Knight's Tale is just, he's played all for laughs. He gets all the jokes, and then in the last 10 minutes of the movie, he lands like a really solid emotional beat, and it's rather surprising, but it's effective, and it's a quality that I really admire to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, speaking of Alan Tudyk, we're going to meander off course for just a moment, but like Firefly and Serenity, he was a comedic character who could really suck you in emotionally when he needed to.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like he does Mathazar's actor, again, Enrico Calantoni, I think is how you pronounce it. Just so good. I guess we touched on Sam Rockwell a little bit earlier too, but like I am going to talk about him again. Like this is the first movie where I noticed him.
Yeah.
And it was probably, and I don't remember what movie it was, but sometime years later, it might have been like Iron Man 2 even, when I'm like, that guy, he looks familiar. And I went back and I looked at Sam Rock, and I'm like, okay, Sam Rockwell, who is this guy? Wikipedia. And then like I look at his filmography from, you know, Iron Man going back, and I'm like, oh, he was in a lot of stuff. Yes, the Ninja Turtles. Yes, there's this film, but he was in The Green Mile, and he was in the first Charlie's Angels movie, and he was in Matchstick Men and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and you know, it was at that point where I went like, this guy is a chameleon because I've seen him in a million things, and I keep not realizing it's the same guy.
That's curious, because for me it was like I saw him in this, and then it seemed like, you know, I got excited every time I saw him in something, and just because it's that sort of thing where you recognize an actor, you know, in one movie, and they just blow you away, and you kind of hope that they're going to get more work, and then just seeing him in each successive film that he did, and seeing him get bigger and bigger, I was really thrilled that he's become, you know, a known, you know, commodity. He's Sam Rockwell, you know.
Yeah.
You know, he's quite famous and accomplished now, and it's just great to see. And because this was the thing where, I mean, I'd never seen him before, and he was just such a standout. And because he is, you know, he is Mr. Red Shirt.
Yeah, and like he is okay. Prepare for a moment of realness. When you go to the convention, like when I go to Con of Thrones, I have made some notoriety for myself in the fan space. And like there is this feeling of like, yes, I belong, but then there's also this feeling of I don't really belong. He is that for like he is that character. He is the, if you'll excuse, I'm going to borrow a term from the My Little Pony fan community. He was horse famous. You know, when you're famous within your fan group in the Brony community, they call that being horse famous. And he was the equivalent of that. And there's a lot of us out there that are like my first Con of Thrones. All I wanted to do was meet the, you know, the dragon famous people of the Game of Thrones fandom. And I'm glad I did. Like, but there's also this feeling of like, he is trying to find his relevance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And who among us, John, have you ever felt like an outsider who wanted to find a place in the larger group?
We were just talking about this last night. That experience of being at a convention where, you know, especially something like a Game of Thrones convention, where I love Game of Thrones and I love getting to meet like the actors who show up, and, you know, and occasionally interacting with some stranger that I'm standing in line with, get to know that person for a few minutes and just talk about stuff, you know, and even get to hang out with, you know, maybe, you know, a couple people, you know, which I was fortunate enough to be able to do that, but you still feel like it's this dichotomy of you feel like you're where you should be, but on the other hand, you're missing out on something because you're on the outside of something, you know. It's you're not quite able to break that barrier, and so yeah, that really does resonate with me a lot, and I think that this movie shows Sam Rockwell's character of being on that sort of periphery and then finding family, through this, and it's just, it's like one of the best moments in like any movie, just when you get to the end of the film and you see the opening credits of the return of Galaxy Quest, and not only is he in the opening credits, he's been given like a full name,
right,
as a character. And isn't that, and that kind of is what it feels like to then integrate into a group where you're not just somebody without a name. You've been accepted by those people, and they know you, they get you, and that's, wow. So this has turned into a
it's just one of those things. This movie does so much, and that's just another thing that it's doing, and it's done really well.
Yeah.
And the backdrop of the convention is actually perfect for this movie. Like, I have heard that this movie is regularly placed on Star Wars fans' lists of the best Star Trek fans' lists of the best Star Trek movies ever made. Like, when people are ranking Star Trek movies, period, Star Trek movies, they put this movie at number 3 on the list, or number 4 on the list.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
It's not surprising to me either. Like, it's the only one that doesn't say Star Trek in the name, but like, it clearly is such an homage to it, and it manages to be fulfilling on almost every level. Mom is bringing up Sam Rockwell has a part coming up. Home movie The Princess Bride is an American comedy miniseries directed by Jason Reitman, a fan-made recreation of the 1987 film. I have seen the first 15 minutes of it, and it is inspired. He will play Wesley for one scene, because basically every scene they get new people. And I won't really spoil anything, but the first scene that I saw was Jack Black as the Man in Black and Diego Luna as Inigo. And it was the conversation on the cliff, and they're very clearly in two different places. They're just filming their side of the scene, each in their own backyard, and it is perfect. So yes, normally I would be like, a remake of The Princess Bride is sacrilegious, but like, it's clearly made in their backyard with their iPhone, with whatever they had on hand. So, and it's great. Check it out.
Those are the kind of remakes I can get behind.
Right, exactly. I've seen about 15 minutes of it. I believe it's dropping in 3 days, the whole series, and it's a charity project too. So I don't mind taking a moment to shout out a charity project that's trying to feed people who are having trouble getting food because of the coronavirus. Their normal resources are not available to them. So I'm behind that. Yeah. And if Sam Rockwell's in it for even one scene as Wesley, it's going to be fantastic. I did see a scene that had Sophie Turner and her husband, whichever Jonas that is that she's married to.
I always love that. It's such a sort of Game of Thrones fan perspective where like Sophie Turner and her husband.
Right. But Sophie Turner is playing the Man in Black, and her husband is playing Buttercup.
Yeah,
and
I love
it. I'm here for it, man. So yeah, Mom, thanks for bringing that up, and yeah, go check that out. It fits. We did a retro review on The Princess Bride a few months back. It was the first retro review we ever did. Oh,
Amy's on it.
Amy's on top of it already. Thank you, mods. Love you guys. So yeah, we'll say it fits in that way. But go check that out. I loved what I saw. I couldn't stop laughing. Jack Black as the Man in Black was hilarious, especially since he's like, you know what? I'm not going to spoil it. It's so bad. It's great. Anyway, we've got about a half hour left. So make sure you dig deep for whatever it is you want to talk about in this film. And for everyone in the chat, if there is something we have missed, I know not everybody was here at the beginning. We'll be happy to retread some of the ground if you want. But bring up things about the movie. What was your favorite quote? Here's a better question. Who's everybody's favorite sort of like single actor or single character? Because for me, it's hands down Tech Sergeant Chen. Tony Shalhoub's character in this just had me laughing every time he was on the screen. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was Alan, not Alan Rickman, because he's my runner-up, but Sam Rockwell. Just, I've loved that character since I first saw it, and I think again, it's what we were just talking about. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he's the outsider to the group, and he's convinced that he's about to die some horrible death, which again is another relatable thing. It's like we talk about imposter syndrome all the time. It's like, I don't, where I think at a certain point we all feel like, okay, we're not really a part of this group, we're about to be found out. It's the same thing as we're about to get killed off, that same type of thing. And so it takes a lot to finally, to find our place amongst that group. And so I think that he really embodies that in this film. And I might not have realized that at the time when I was a kid watching this, but I think that's probably a large part of why I liked him so much, because he represented, me being sort of afraid to reach out to people and interact. But then Alan Rickman, because he's Alan Rickman.
Because he's Alan Rickman, right? So there's two things I see here. We'll touch on Amy's first. Can we please talk about the mining aliens some more, and the rock monster, Gorignac, and the little freaking, they're so cute. But of course, like Sam Rockwell's character knew, no, they're gonna get. Did
you guys ever watch the show?
Like he knew what was going to happen.
Well, he is the audience.
He is.
Yeah, because he's like the guy who's always, it's like whenever you're watching a horror movie and you're like, no, don't go in the scary house. What is wrong with you people? But yeah, and of course, with the miners, just could those be the miners? Well, yeah, they're like 3. Miners, not miners.
Hey, JP said it best. Miners, not miners. And then, of course, this is another great line. Let's get out of here before one of those things kills Guy. Like, not kills us, kills anybody else, but before he kills Guy. Yeah. And, what can you say about the rock monster? It looks pretty cool for, late 90s CGI. But they did a great job of making the little things, the little miners, cute and then terrifying. They're going to turn ugly. That's right, Cedric. They're going to turn ugly.
And then, of course, but what's great about this scene is we get all those moments of Tim Allen just, doing his little roll on the ground.
Which he does again at the ending, and I'm just like, it doesn't really do anything other than the gun was on the ground, so the roll, that's what the roll is for.
But yeah, we've seen all that kind of stuff in old Star Trek episodes, so so it's wonderful.
And then we will address ridiculous Ed Tollett's comment here. Sean says the only thing I want to talk about, I've already mentioned twice. Sigourney Weaver's wardrobe cemented my crush on her. Well, you're not out of line, sir. I'll just say that. There is a moment of sort of inconsistency with her wardrobe. There is a cut scene from this film where she uses her, shall we say, feminine wiles to distract a couple of the green skin alien guards, which is why at one point her zipper is, her zipper is up here, and then later in the movie, her zipper is down here, and you can see her bra, and she's showing a lot of cleavage that wasn't there before. That scene was cut, and it probably is appropriate that they did. I'm glad they didn't overly sexualize her, although, like, she did spend the last 15 minutes of the movie with her chest pretty exposed. Although I've got to say, as far as exposed chests go, it was a good one, And we got some Tim Allen pecs in there too, so I feel like it was
I do love the Alan Rickman's line. I see you managed to get your shirt off.
Yeah. So, like, I can, as long as it's equal opportunity, sexualizing, I'm for it. We're humans. We like that stuff. What can I say? Anything else you want to make sure we mention? I'm kind of looking at the list. So we haven't really talked much about Daryl Mitchell as Tommy Weber, Lieutenant Laredo. He's not an actor I'm as familiar with. I mean, he's done some stuff.
I know I've seen him and stuff. I just can't remember off the top of my head.
So he is on NCIS New Orleans and has been as a main character for a long time.
I had seen him before I first saw this film, so I just don't remember what it was.
He was in 10 Things I Hate About You. He was in Home Fries. He was in Sergeant Bilko, House Party. So yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. He's been an actor. He's been in stuff since the mid-90s anyway.
Yeah, no, I loved him as, this guy who was a kid on this show and has had to sort of, I love all the stuff with him sort of training himself, towards the end of the film to pilot the ship, and then he's really in his element. So,
like, I want to give proper due to all the actors here, because they all did great with what they were given. I feel like, unfortunately, Lieutenant Laredo had less to do in this movie than some of the other characters. It is what it is, But I really did enjoy what he had to work with here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he really does make the most out of his material, and I think he has a lot of great moments, and some of them are completely like non-verbal. Sometimes it's just the way he'll roll his eyes, or or just I do love his responses to when Alan Rickman is kind of having his crisis at the beginning of the movie, and he's like, "Here we go again."
Yeah, Mom has a really interesting piece of information I was not aware of. That actor was paralyzed from the waist down in 2001.
That's right, because he's also in. I don't know if he's still on it because I'm behind on the show, but I know he's appeared on Fear of the Walking Dead as a character, as and he's in a wheelchair. So I thought that was really cool because I had no idea that he had an accident, but he was on the talk show that they do for that, and I found out about that. No, he's great. I really do think he's a wonderful actor, and
it looks like he didn't really stop acting, because I'm on Wikipedia right now. It was at the end of November 2001, and he was making movies in 2002 and on TV in 2002 to 2004.
Okay, I think I know what I had seen him on when I was younger. I think it was the John Larroquette show, because he was a regular on that. Although I had forgotten that I even watched that show until I just now looked it up. It's been so long.
Yeah, it's I remember that show, but I don't think I ever watched it. But yeah, he's, like I say, he does great with a role that doesn't have a whole lot to it, but like when he's being carried off and Like he's kicking his feet and screaming like a little kid. I'm just, I don't know why it's so funny, but it is. Just, it's great. It's great. Wonder if Will Wheaton could identify with that character. Probably could.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was definitely a commentary on the what's his character's name on the show?
Wesley
Crusher. The fact that he was a young kid on the original show, and it's that idea of having this really young kid who apparently is smarter than all the adults on the ship, and it's.
Yeah, I haven't been able to keep up quite as well with the chat the last few minutes because I have been looking on Wikipedia to find some of this information. But I will say this, like that's a great quote, by the way, Sean. But apparently, Leaf and Pat are getting into it over speciesist comments, and you all know I'm a racist. Human race first every time. Although, like, as far as like horrifying Cthulhu monsters from outer space go, Missy Pyle is not so bad. We'll just say. All right, so
I do really love Sam Rockwell's commentary, and that
just the scream.
Well, later on when Tony Shalhoub and Missy Pyle are getting it on, he's like, "Get a room, y'all." He's like, "Oh, that's not right."
Yeah. Who else was in this movie we haven't talked about? I think we've kind of hit everybody at this point. All the main crew, all the main characters of the crew. We've talked about a couple of the aliens that stood out to us more. We've talked about the nerd herd who sort of like are justified in their obsessions to some degree.
Which it is kind of fun because it's taken to an extreme where you have that moment where he's like, I know the show isn't real, and then Tim Allen says it's all real. He's like, I knew it.
Oh my god, I knew it. Okay, Amy, good point. I do like. Okay, that is the mouth movements of the bad guy aliens is probably one of the things that I'm like, if they did this today, this would be much cleaner.
Yeah, but don't you think that was also kind of the fact that he very much looks like a guy in an alien suit is kind of part of the whole thing?
Yes, I do. And I don't disagree with you, Amy. His like spider or crab leg hair was really creepy and weird, but cool. Brace yourself, John. Padar is about to troll you pretty bad, I think. Yeah, but like hopefully not. Yeah, I know.
I mean, you just tell him it's getting old.
This was another great scene where they're feeding everybody and they're like, the steak is super good and everybody's enjoying their food. And Alan Rickman has a bowl full of like drowning insects for dinner. Good stuff, man. But like this movie did a lot of that. It just found the humor in the right places, like which is one of the reasons I'm going to keep coming back to why I think this movie is one of the best parodies ever made, just because it manages to make so many great jokes about the thing while simultaneously loving the thing, while simultaneously being the thing, while simultaneously being about the people that love the thing. It's like, I don't know how you write this film. I honestly don't know how you write this film. And as I said near the beginning, I think the first time I watched it, I thought it was good. I think the second time I watched it, I thought it was great. And in the intervening years, every time I watch it, it gets a little bit better because I feel like I peel back one more layer of the onion. And I haven't run out of layers yet. You know what I mean? And that's a rare film that can do that.
Yeah, as I said, this film works on different levels depending, I think, on where you are personally. And as a kid, I was able to appreciate all the wonderful humor and fun characters. And then starting to grow older, not only are the things like sort of wondering if you're happy with where you are in life, not that thing, but also community within like fan culture and stuff like that. That's an element that I don't think I've ever been able to really appreciate about this film until now, just because of everything that's changed for me in the past year.
Right.
So now this film which is why I'm really happy to revisit this film now, because to realize that that's a part of it that now I can really appreciate, and it's going to influence the way I see the movie going forward. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say that it means something different to you.
Yeah, and it's like I'm getting a little goosebumpy just like hearing you say something to that effect. Like you have a whole new perspective, and that you were able to get something completely new out of this film that you haven't gotten before.
Yeah.
Danny McKay asked, "Have I watched the documentary? I assume you're talking about the ones that Screen Junkies made like a year ago." And if that's the one you're talking about, the answer is yes, I have seen it. And yes, it is absolutely worth watching. If you enjoyed this film and you want a little bit more like behind the scenes from the actual creators and actors and crew, check it out because it's really, really good. It was made by Screen Junkies, and I think they're pretty awesome anyway. They're the same people that do like Honest Trailers and whatnot.
I just want to say thank you so much, Julie Beth. That means a lot.
And she's right. We're glad to have you. Okay, folks, 10 minutes left in the stream. Get in your final questions, comments, whatever. Get them in there now. John, last chance to make sure you say something nice about this movie. We've talked about Tim Allen the least. Ostensibly the lead in this movie. We've talked very little about him or his character, other than maybe to contrast him against other characters. But I think he's got a really interesting arc himself, where he goes from craving the fame and going to all these different things, and so he can be the center of attention, to at the end of the movie, no, everybody come up here, share the stage with me for this bow.
Yeah, and I think it would be really easy to think from, we get the glimpse of the opening credits for the new Adventures of Galaxy Quest. And it would be really easy to look at that from a cynical point of view and say that, they're getting another 15 seconds of fame, and what's going to happen when that experience is over. But I think they're all going into it so differently, because I think that new experience of doing the show is going to be about, more than anything, spending time with one another and doing this thing together, and and engaging with your family, and so I think that it means something different for the characters, and it's just something that's going to be more enriching for them, and a lot of that has to do with that moment where where, again, it's easier for me to just call the actors' names, where Tim Allen has everybody come up there with him, and because they're all in it together now.
Yeah. and it's believable. He came to realize he needed every one of those people around him to make the thing happen. It's kind of like Here Be Dragons. I am the captain, but I gotta have my crew with me. And and my crew are extremely important to me. Like, no crew, no show, no ship. Can't do it all by yourself, you know. Anyway, yeah, it's just great because you know what? I'm just getting to that point where I'm starting to repeat myself now, but just I'm so impressed with the way they've woven it all together. I do want to mention the director. He's a gentleman named Dean Parisot. I'm not exactly sure. It's a French sounding name, but he's an American, so I'm not sure how he would pronounce it. Looks like he has done exactly 6 movies in the past, Galaxy Quest being one of them. Fun with Dick and Jane is another one, which I saw, which I thought was great. The one that had Jim Carrey and...
Oh my God, but did you see the movie that he is doing that's coming up, Stephen?
Yes, I did. He is doing Bill and Ted Face the Music. He is the director for that, which, real talk, I love Bill and Ted. I sign off every stream with "be excellent to each other," which is a Bill and Ted quote. So, yeah, I'm super hyped for that movie coming up. And Dean Parisot, I'm not sure, is the director of that film as well. So I'm excited. He did a movie in 1990 called Framed. He did a 1998. He did a movie called Home Fries. In 1999, he did ATF and Galaxy Quest. Then 6 years later, 2005, he did Fun with Dick and Jane. Then 8 years later, he did Red 2, Retired Extremely Dangerous 2, which was an okay movie. And then he's got Bill and Ted, which is 7 years later. So, yeah, it's I'm excited for that. Bill and Ted coming up.
Yeah, he seems like he's done a good deal of television directing.
Okay.
Which explains why his filmography is rather short. So I was going to say, because it would be weird if he just has done those projects and else, just in terms of still being active. Because
I mean, I'm sure there are some people in Hollywood who are like primarily known for being a DP or something like that, who occasionally dip their foot into the directing world. But yes.
But yeah, it looks like he has a lot of television shows under his belt. So then, you know, so he seems like he's extremely active in that regard. But I'm really interested to hear that he's directing the new Bill and Ted movie. That should be interesting to see.
Anyway, yeah. So I don't have anything else left to say. At this point, I'd just be grasping at straws. John, you got anything else? Chat, last chance?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we've covered, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's stuff that we didn't talk about.
I'm sure there is.
But in the strokes, I think we've done it. Oh, Kelly. Hey.
Love you, Kelly. I'm glad you've been listening.
She's been listening, but she's been reading comic books.
Yeah, that's acceptable. I mean, it's your life. Do what you want. But until I have your undivided attention, we're not really friends. So, no, seriously. I'm just glad for everybody who does show up. So, yeah, I don't really have anything left. John, you don't really have anything left. I don't see anything else popping up in the chat. So, and it's 5 minutes to our normal ending time. So I think we'll just move into the post.
Well, I will just say, though, if somehow you've listened to all this and you haven't seen the movie, go watch it.
Go watch it.
Great. And I think, Stephen, did you say it's actually on Amazon Prime?
It is on Amazon Prime right now, at least in the U.S. and Canada.
Yeah, go watch it.
I know a couple of our European friends had some trouble finding it. You know, and I don't know how to search for the international stuff, but yeah, if you haven't seen Galaxy Quest, you really should go check it out. It's a parody movie, but it's way better than most parody movies ever could even try to be. It's better than it has any right to be.
And like, as we've been saying, like, even if, you know, I can imagine that science fiction isn't a lot of people's thing here. But if it's not your favorite thing in the world, still watch it for what it has to say about fan culture and all that. I think everyone here can respond to that type of thing. So yeah, give it a shot.
Yes, Leaf, I did in fact enjoy this film. I, Stephen Stark, liked Galaxy Quest. Now you know. And I want to say and I also want to say thank you to all our supporters out there who've been asking for this one. Specifically, Mom, I know Danny McKay has said it before. I know Sean, Ridiculous Ed Tollett, has brought it up many times. And I know there's quite a few, Amy and Pet are both. I'm sorry, I'm trying to say your name more correctly, sir. Pather and Amy both saw this movie for the first time today and both really enjoyed it. So I'm also happy that I got to share a story I enjoy with some of my friends and sort of broaden their horizons too, because it's a great film. Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's the end. Guys, come back next week. We're going to talk about Star Wars, The Clone Wars Season 2.
Which, by the way, I cannot wait for it. It's a great season. This is where we get the beginnings of what we in the StarArs community call Obatine, which is the fantastic love story of Obi-Wan and Duchess Satine. So you all gonna want to go ahead and watch and follow along.
So yeah, Clone Wars next week. Week after that is Christian Avasarala, character study from The Expanse. Hopefully, Monaro Geek will be able to join us. Oh yeah, Kelly brings up Amy got introduced to Galaxy Quest and Fifth Element this week. Oh man, Fifth Element, you're not wrong, JP. We ended up having we had a watch party in our Slack group this week for the Fifth Element, and a few people hadn't seen it, including John, and I believe you enjoyed it.
I did,
because it's a good movie. It holds up too.
Yeah, and everybody else was watching it on streaming. Of course, you all know I got my 4K Blu-ray out.
Right,
so. Physical media
for the win. John, you've got a stream this week. What is it?
It is finally and doing A Knight's Tale with Aaron M. That's on Thursday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern. So come tune in. We'll have a blast.
I'll be there, short of being asleep, because that occasionally happens. Sometimes I'm forced to take a nap after a hot day at work, but JP, we're gonna talk, buddy. We're gonna talk. Nessie's got a stream this week too. Sphinxes with Alicia Kingston, I believe, and that was on Thursday, the day after yours. Is that right? Your Wednesday.
No, I'm on Thursday, so, okay, so I think she's on Wednesday.
So Nessie is Wednesday over on Unspun Yarn. John Webster Film on Thursday. Yeah, and that's what we got coming up, and we still got the San Rixian discount code on the screen. Go get you some t-shirts, some stickers, some prints of her art. I know she's not taking commissions right now, but as soon as she is, I'm going to let you guys know, because she's done a few commission pieces for me and they're fantastic. She's just one of the best friends in the fandom I've got, and we are honored that she has made a discount code for Here Be Dragons, and there it is, HBD. So yeah, it's 7:00 by my clock. That means it's time to cut out. Everyone who came here, thanks so much for showing up. JP, if it's all right with you, I'm actually going to call you on the phone here in just a minute, because I haven't talked to you in a little bit. Yeah, but for the rest of you, thanks for coming. I'll see you all next week if I don't see you in our group chat before then. And until then, you know what it is. Peace, and be excellent to each other.